Anytime I walk into a room or an event at a dinner and I'm introduced to people as a plastic surgeon, the first reaction I get is, wow, with a raising of the eyebrows, and then a quick twinkle in the eye and a smile, and then the question, so who all have you done? But plastic surgery, my friends, is not about all of that. There's a greater goal to plastic surgery, and that goal is, it's not just about improving somebody's looks. It's not just about enhancing attributes. It's not just about getting wounds to heal. It's not about correcting deformities. There's a greater goal there. And the ultimate goal is to rehabilitate these patients or people into the system and society that they're used to moving around in, so as to make them positive contributors to society. And this is the point that I'm here to make to all of you today. The best way to drive a point home is to give examples. And what I'll do is I'll share 3 of my patients' stories with you this evening, and perhaps that will then give you a little insight into what I'm trying to say. Imagine that you're in a small little village in northern India, let's say eastern UP. You are the lady of the house. You're cooking food on a wood-fired chula. There are 2 kids running around the house. Your 9-month-old infant you've laid next to you, and you've just prepared some tea, lifted the vessel off, and kept it by your side. You leave the room for a moment, and as you do that, you suddenly hear the shrieks of those 2 kids and the hysterical wailing of that baby. You rush in to see that that child has turned over, crawled towards that vessel of tea, and dunked its hands in there. The right hand was badly scalded. The child was treated by local doctors. It took a couple of months, but slowly the wounds healed. The problem was that the wounds healed with what we call as a contracture. The fingers and the scar slowly started to bend, fall together into a fist. Though this child's wounds had healed, the child was left with a useless fist. The fingers could not be extended. The child was brought to us in Mumbai for treatment, and we started treating the child when the child was about 18 months old. At that time, I thought to myself that to let this child go around in society like this would be impossible for this child to integrate into school life. Forget school life, into life as a whole with a useless right hand. My training in plastic surgery told me that we could do something for this child. So we started treating him. The first thing we had to do was we had to release those contractures, open all the fingers up and straighten them. Once we did that, we realized that there's a large raw area there where there's no skin cover. So we took some skin from the groin on its blood vessels, raised it up, and placed it on the extended fingers. This then created a single kind of a palm, or a single group of fingers, which we call as a syndactyly. Once this happened and all of that healed well, we had to separate those fingers one by one and the web spaces so that the child's hand could function again. It took 4 long years and 13 operations. But this boy is now back in school, playing around, using his right hand to write, and doing all the activities that any other normal child would do with the right hand. If we would have left this child untreated, thank you. If we would have left this child untreated, he would have been walking around today with a useless right hand. Absolutely no success there. My second story is that of an electrician, a 37-year-old electrician. He cut his hand off. Yes, you heard me right. He cut his hand off. He separated it into 2. The upper limb and the palm of the hand was separated into 2 at the level of the palm and the wrist. How did he manage to do that? He was repairing an electrical saw in the factory where he was employed, and somebody accidentally started the electricity, and then you can imagine what happened. He was taken to 2 hospitals in the city of Bombay, where they said they couldn't do anything much for him. By the time he came to us, it was about 10 hours since the mishap. Now, those of you who have a biological background, or a background in biology, will realize that 10 hours of no blood supply, no fresh blood flowing to tissue, means that toxins are going to be accumulating there. The more the toxins, the less the chance of survival. The other problem was that the ischemia time was long. Ischemia time is the time when there is no blood flowing through there. So toxins accumulating, no blood flowing through, 2 really bad things. The third thing was that the amputated part, the hand, was not stored properly. It was placed directly on ice, something like a frostbite issue. Tissues get damaged. And the fourth part was that this chap was a chronic smoker. Nicotine, my friends, is very, very bad, extremely injurious to small blood vessels and thereby circulation. So if you're a chronic smoker, wound healing and tissue survival is a big problem. For the first time I saw him, I said, should we give him a chance to get everything back again or not? But then I realized that he's the only earning member of his family. How is this man going to survive if all we do is get the amputated stump to heal? How is he supposed to earn a living, look after his family? So we decided to give it a shot and attempt the reimplantation. When we started about 9 o'clock in the evening, and it took us till about 6 a.m. to put Humpty together. We started with separating so we started as two teams actually. The first team started with the amputated hand, the second team with the stump. We looked at the arteries, we looked at the veins, we looked at the tendons, and we looked at the nerves. We separated all of these structures and we tagged them. We tagged them because you can imagine when you have to put them back together again, you don't want to stitch wrong things to wrong things. You can imagine what would happen if there was a cross connection, an artery to a vein, a nerve to a tendon, etc. It took us almost, 9 to 6, almost about 9 hours to get this job done. There are 16 structures that pass through the wrist at this point, and this does not include the bones that also have to be fixed. Once we were done with surgery, I thought to myself, have we done something worthwhile for this man? What if that part does not survive? How will it affect him? How is an artificial hand supposed to get an electrician a livelihood? But luckily for us, the hand survived. He got most of his function back. I saw him last year at some point, and he's back at the job. He's fixing machines as an in-house electrician in the same factory that he was employed in before. My third story is of a 14-year-old girl. She was riding pillion with her brother on a scooter in a small town in Madhya Pradesh. There's a highway that meanders through the town, and it has some turns on it. At some point, the tire of the scooter skid, and these two were thrown out onto the oncoming traffic where there was an oil tanker passing by. The driver did brake, but before he could do that, his left front tire almost ran over the girl's right lower limb. There was just an infinitesimal contact between that left front tire and the right lower limb. But in the rolling of the tire over the limb and back again, there was a dual degloving injury that took place. The injury resulted in all the skin of the thigh and the lower leg coming off. She was rushed to a local hospital and from there to Nagpur, where they tried to rehabilitate her and get these wounds to heal. But at some point, the doctors there felt that they wouldn't be able to do it, and they said that they would have to cut the leg off above the knee. You can imagine what this means to a 14-year-old girl. When she came to Bombay for treatment under our care, the first thing this spirited young girl said to me was, "Doctor, I love to dance, do what you have to do, but please don't cut my leg off." I thought to myself for a moment that with this kind of devastating injury, infected tissues in the lower leg, degloving, the knee joint was moving because there were muscles on the thigh, but the ankle wasn't moving at all because there was a lot of degloving of all the tissues of the lower leg. There was very minuscule, very tardy blood supply going down to the foot. Very few nerves going down there giving sensation to that foot. I really didn't know whether we should go ahead or not. But this girl's never say die attitude really struck a chord somewhere. I said, look, all of this training and stuff, if I do not attempt this, it's really not worth being a plastic surgeon. So I said to myself, let's give it a shot. This girl is an extremely brave girl, I must say to you, and she really supported us through all the travails that she underwent. It took us 4 months, I think about 9 operations. Initially, we had to wear magnifying loupes and dissect away all the dirty tissue, get clean tissue on there so that the body could lay down more granulation tissue, as we call it, and then eventually take skin grafts from the opposite thigh and get this wound to heal. Luckily for us, everything healed very well. I saw her in April last year, and she's now grown up. She's studying in a college in Bombay in Bandra, and she is dancing on her own 2 feet. These 3 stories, ladies and gentlemen, these 3 stories essentially tell you just one thing. It's not about getting wounds to heal. There's always a very easy alternative when it comes to getting wounds to heal. It's probably less expensive, less troublesome for the patient. As a surgeon, you need less skill. But what does it do eventually? Does it actually rehabilitate a patient back into the social circles that they move? Do they become happy people after the treatment they've received? Do they contribute to society in a positive manner? Most people usually think that plastic surgery is all about good looks and making people more beautiful. I will leave you, ladies and gentlemen, to decide whether plastic surgery is just skin deep. Thank you.